You ready to eat? Not so fast. Let's take a look at this verse.
يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي.
Hey, welcome back to my channel. This is your brother D in Islam with another episode on Fruitful Islam. So, as I understand, you guys are ready to eat, but not so fast. Are you eating halal? You know, as a Muslim, we're supposed to eat halal. So, what I wanted to remind you guys of is what we should do when it comes to a halal diet. So first and foremost, before we even start talking about what kind of diet we should consist of as Muslims, let's get to the root of it itself. What is halal? What does halal mean? Halal simply means permissible. Just on shorter versions, it simply means permissible, and that's what we go by. Now, the next question would be is, what makes something permissible? Now, when it comes to our diet and the meat that we eat, this is really what we're talking about. Because as we know, there's plenty of things out there, but in order to truly understand, we want to know what is halal, what does it mean, and what actually makes something halal. So, when it comes to food, what makes it halal? First and foremost, in order for something to be considered halal, it would have to be slaughtered under the name of Allah. That is what we worship as Muslims. We worship Allah, the one God. So, when you're going to slaughter something, you basically want to make sure that you mention the name of Allah by saying Bismillah. This is the beginning phase of what makes something halal. Next, it has to be from a list of permitted animals. So we can't just eat any and everything like some people do, and to each his own. But as a Muslim, we're bound by certain guidelines. So when it comes to what we can eat, what kind of animals, it would have to be from a list of permitted animals. Now, to approach this more clearly, one should consider not what can we eat, but what can't we eat. Now, when it comes to what we cannot eat, obviously, if you know anything about Islam, some of the more well-known things are the flesh of swine or pig. We can't eat blood, and we can't eat carrion. Carrion simply means that it's an animal that died from natural causes. It was dead, it wasn't slaughtered. These are some of the more common things that one would understand as far as what is haram to eat.
إنما حرم عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل به لغير الله فمن اضطر غير باغ ولا عاد فلا إثم عليه إن الله غفور رحيم.
So, other things as far as what is haram to eat. We know that things like birds of prey. So any bird that has talons, we can't eat it. So just think of that. When it comes to talons, what do you think of? Things like falcons, things like hawks, things like eagles. These are all haram to eat. So that's something that we can't indulge in. Also, fanged beast of prey. So any animal that has fangs, we want to go ahead and stay away from those as well. For example, we can't eat lion, we can't eat cheetah, we can't eat hyena, we can't eat dogs and cats. These are all considered beasts of prey. They're all fanged animals, and these are all part of the list of what is haram. So with that in mind, we can move on into other things. We also cannot eat insects. Insects are a big no-no. That's part of the haram list. And in certain countries, people tend to eat insects. But as a Muslim, we cannot indulge in that. So just be mindful, when you guys travel, what you actually put into your systems, because these things are considered haram. If you didn't know, now you do. Now, also adding to that list is animals that were already slaughtered or killed by other animals. So if you're the hunting type and you're out catching your meal for the month, or it's a sport for you, but you tend to put that food away so where you can actually utilize it for the time being, just realize that if the animal has already been eaten on by another animal, you cannot eat it yourself. It is not considered halal. Okay, so if you didn't know that, that's definitely another one to put on the list. Now, adding to the list of haram, which actually makes things clearer as far as what we can eat by the process of elimination. So adding to the list of haram things would be vermin. Vermin are haram for us to eat, and we can't add that to our plate. Now, I guess when we're using terms like vermin, what's considered a vermin? Because when I first heard vermin, my mind was all over the place. I couldn't really put my finger on what would be considered vermin. What would be, is it an opinion? Is it something that, that's well known throughout? So I did a little bit of research myself just so I can give it to you guys. So when it comes to being a vermin, one thing that you consider is that they're considered wild animals or insects that are harmful to crops, farm animals, game, or even carry disease. These are all considered vermin. Now, I live in the southern states, so sometimes vermin are edible to people. Just thinking of some things like possums, mice, snakes. These are just some examples of what would be considered a vermin. All right, so stay away from that. I know, you may want to throw other reptiles in there, like gators and crocodiles and stuff, but there's really no clear research as far as if that's openly haram, openly halal. Those are kind of things that you just may want to stay away from. But if you do happen to eat things like gator, it doesn't say anywhere where it's actually haram. But do your research so that way you would know better moving forward. Some examples, according to our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, what would be considered vermin in Islam, just for some examples, would be things again like snakes, lizards, scorpion, mice, and even crows. Crows would be considered vermin. So I haven't met anybody that ate crow, but just in case if you were thinking about it, we can stop you here now. Other than that, another well-known aspect of what's haram, and it doesn't have anything to do with meat, but it would be considered all intoxicants, especially the edible ones, are all haram. All right. So no alcohol in your food, even if it's used as an ingredient. We're not talking about wine on the side or beer or anything like that, because we know that's clearly haram. But people that are on the ropes as far as is cooking with alcohol haram? Yes, it is. So you can't cook with it. There's always a chance that there's going to be some alcoholic content within your meal, even after it's cooked off. So the best thing to do is stay away from it. Do your research, because there's a lot of things like sauces for pastas and things like that you would find that was made with alcohol, certain barbecue sauce, certain condiments itself. So I know there's certain types of entrees, certain parts of the world where they're pretty heavy with alcohol use. You may see some of the French, you may see some of the Chinese cuisines. These all have different levels of alcohol. So just be mindful when you're going to eat any of these kind of foods of the ingredients that they make the meal with. All right. So again, can't use alcohol, even if it's cooked off. Sorry in advance, but from brother to brother or brother to sister, I just want to make sure that you actually know that, so you won't fall into that trap. But you can always ask Allah to forgive you if that did happen. So that way you won't feel like, you're not going to be forgiven. Okay. So moving right along, you can always go to the hadith for more descriptions and examples of what's halal. It can usually be found in the books of hunting and slaughter or food and drink for reference. So you can always go to Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, and the other compilations of hadith. Very helpful when it comes to what we can and cannot eat. So now that we got the haram out the way, let's get into the halal. But before I do that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and hit the bell so you'll know when new videos drop. And always leave a comment. It's very helpful to see what you guys are thinking, to see if there's anything else that I can do or talk about that may be helpful to you guys. I do tend to read those comments. So just go ahead and drop one of those if you have anything that you want to say to me. So now that we got the haram out the way, people have a misconception of what we can eat. Now, as a Muslim, we can eat a lot, and there's plenty of different things that we can eat. So rest assured, we're not going to be short of any meals. Being a Muslim, yes, we do have some restrictions, but they're healthy restrictions. So no worries there. So you always have your obvious. You have your fruits, you have your vegetables, breads and pastas of all sort, rice, legumes, you name it. Those are all the non-meat aspects that we can actually eat and indulge in. So don't worry about there being a shortage of anything that we can eat. The list is very slim as far as what we can't versus what we can. So as far as animals are concerned, now that you know that you put the Bismillah on it when you're going to slaughter, and now to name the animals, we have things like beef, which is cow. It can go into burgers and ribs and everything else. You have poultry of all sorts. Obviously, chicken is going to be something that's on the top of the list when it comes to poultry. You have lambs, you have goats, even have things like rabbits, quails, ducks, turkeys, and many more. So we have no shortage of land animals that we can actually eat. So we will definitely have a full plate, especially during iftar. I can't wait till the next Ramadan comes. Now, don't forget, the creatures of the ocean are at our disposal. Besides a few differences of thought on a minority of creatures like mussels, shellfish, shark, the ocean has a plethora of good things to eat. And me personally, I love seafood. I don't know about you, but I can live off of it. Other than that, just be mindful again when you're going to buy meat. Let's try to stay away from things that weren't slaughtered in the name of Allah. So when we go into these supermarkets, when we go into, our favorite stores, a lot of times people buy the meat out of convenience, but is it truly convenient to you as a Muslim? You may want to reconsider, because we do want to make sure that our du'as are answered. We do want to make sure that we're being obedient to Allah, and we do want to follow the sunnah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And they all suggest to eat halal, slaughtered in the name of Allah, not anything that was shocked or strangled or thrown or beaten, in order for it to die and be used as meat. So I hope this gives you some insight on our dietary standards. And as you see it, we have many choices to divulge in. All you need to supply is the love and the seasoning. But with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Bon appetit, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you next time.